preparation before we begin. In this wooden bowl, there are 400 grams of buckwheat flour and 100 grams of wheat flour. The ratio of buckwheat flour to wheat flour is 2 to 8. That's why they're called 2-8 buckwheat noodles. Lesson 1. Adding water. Let's first mix the buckwheat and wheat flour in the bowl. Spread your fingers wide, like large claws, and keeping your hands in that pose, dip them into the flour and make large circles to mix the flours together. After the flour is well mixed, smooth the surface to make it flat. Make a well in the center of the flour to receive the water we are about to add. Pour the water into the depression in the center. We will add the water in stages, so do not pour all the water, only about 95% of it, leaving just a little bit of water in the bowl. Now, there is a well containing water in the center of the wooden bowl, with flour heaped up around the outside. Using only the fingertips, gently flick the dry flour from the sides of the bowl onto the surface of the water. Place 2 fingers in the center of the bowl, then draw them to the edge of the bowl, enlarging the well of water by pulling the flour from the center. Do this another 2 or 3 times. Flick more flour onto the surface, then draw it back out with your fingers. When you can again see the surface of the water, flick more flour onto the surface. Again, as before, make large claws and mix by making large circles, but quickly this time. Do not squeeze or knead during the mixing. Remove the stuck-on flour from your fingers and mix the flour again. Some large lumps of dough will form during this process. Break up the larger ones by gently pulling them apart into smaller pieces. When you see a ball or lump of dough, this means that too much water is concentrated in that piece and should be spread out and broken into smaller pieces. This process is necessary to equally distribute the flour and water into the dough. Once the mixture is in small pieces and has taken on the appearance of fine gravel, we will add the remaining water. First, pour some of the remaining water into your hands, a little at a time, then sprinkle the water equally onto the flour. Distribute a bit more onto any areas that appear dry or floury. Again, open your fingers wide and mix the flour well. The water will cause balls to form. This time, you don't need to break up the balls. Remove any flour from your fingers and allow the balls to come together to form one large ball of dough. Be sure to incorporate into the ball of dough any flour remaining on your hands or the bowl. Lesson 2. Mixing. Next is the matome, or mixing stage of the process. Knead the dough firmly, putting all your weight into it, kneading it about 100 times. Keep it as a big ball. Do not spread out the dough, and let any air in the dough out. It's okay to fold the dough a bit at this point, but try not to introduce any air into it. Lesson 3. Kneading a flour. Let's move on to the next step. It's called kikuneri, or kneading a flour. Place the fingers of your left hand under the ball of dough and raise that side slightly off the bowl. Place your right hand on the right side of the dough and, pushing with the fleshy side of your right palm, push the dough inward, then forward in a sweeping motion away from you. Then turn the dough slightly counterclockwise and repeat. Lesson 4. Making a cone. After having washed our hands, we'll go to the fourth step, which is called hesodashi, or making a cone. Bring the heels of your hands together and fan your fingers out into the shape of a tulip. Grasp the ball of dough from the top and place it on its side. Roll the dough on its side gently to the right while pushing down slightly on the narrow end facing you. By pushing down the wrinkled part a little, you can make the dough into a conical shape. Now, rotate the dough so the narrow end points to the right, and continue rolling it, this time from the top to the bottom, perpendicularly. Do this by placing your left hand on the wide base of the dough and using your right to roll it from the top to the bottom. Now it will look like a cone. Stand the cone-shaped dough on its base and push it down gently from the top to make it flat. With this, the first major step, the wooden bowl process, will be finished.